so much for joining me and for being here. We're so excited for you to join us here for Wisdom Wednesdays. This is a LinkedIn Live series where we have nurturing conversations with social justice leaders about how to pursue our passions, how to create impact in our community, all while preserving our well-being. We hope that these conversations help you to think differently about how we do the work so we can continue to do this work for a long time. And in a world that honors written word to the highest degree, these conversations are intended to honor our heritages and our ancestors who have shared wisdom with storytelling and community idea exchanges. This space is for the learners who grow by doing, by listening, by visualizing. We're here for you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Manuela. I'm your host for today. I'm the founder and chief inspiration officer of Fuerza Experiences, and as a leadership alignment coach, facilitator, and strategic consultant, I created Fuerza Experiences so leaders can exist in a world where we can live in harmony, pursuing our passions and purpose while also preserving our well-being. I am a Latina woman with caramel skin, brown straight hair, brown eyes, and today I am wearing my brown square glasses, a beaded long earrings made from artisanal artists in Colombia, and I'm wearing a black shirt, and I'm sitting in front of a cream virtual background with eucalyptus branches on the left and the Confuerza logo on the right. Wonderful. So as we get settled into our space today, I like to share a few reminders about our LinkedIn event page. For those of you who need accessibility resources, I encourage you to turn on this closed captioning available on your right-hand side of the LinkedIn page. We also have transcripts that will be available on the event pages after. We encourage you to stay connected with us throughout our conversation, so you can do that by using the comment section below. And if you want to private message me for a private question, feel free to do that as well, as we'll be attentive to those. You'll also notice as hosts, we like to take notes. So if at any point we're looking away, just know that we are fully present with you. Taking notes just allows us to fully capture the conversation flow as we're going. I also like to ask for love and grace, as though we have been in these virtual conversations in lives, what it feels like for a very, very long time. We still never know if tech situations or if our life around us is going to create extra noise. And so if at any point we do need to pause or mute, we ask for that love and grace to allow us to move forward. And lastly, I do like to ensure to be as clear and transparent with all of you, as all of the information that we are sharing come from diverse perspective and expertise. However, neither of us are professional medical professionals, and then we do not want these to be a substitute for professional medical advice or to be seen as a one-size-fits-all. Instead, we hope that this helps you to inspire you to reflect deeper about the practices that are or are not working for you, so you can find what works best for you. All right, wonderful. So if you're joining us for the first time, we love to start all of our Wisdom Wednesdays conversations with a grounding practice that hopefully you can incorporate either into your personal routine or into, if you're a leader and you want to bring these into meetings or check-ins or team retreats. These are ways that you can bring in practices that consider the full person and creates environments for people to be seen and felt and respected. So today, it's on theme to our conversation, embodiment leadership. We're going to start off with a gentle body scan. So I'm going to encourage all of you, if you're in a safe place to be able to ground yourself, I encourage you to take a moment to place your feet firmly on the ground. If that is sitting or standing, whatever feels most comfortable to you. And then I'm going to invite you to gently close your eyes and focus in on your breath. Taking a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. As we focus in on our breath, we feel ourselves grounding ourselves to our chair, to the ground below us. And we're going to begin with the bottom of our feet. We're going to notice the sensations that we're feeling throughout our body as we envision This bright light starting at the bottom of our feet and working their way up through our legs, knees, thighs. As this light goes through our body, notice any tension you may feel throughout your body as it reaches your stomach, your heart, goes down through your arms into the palms of your hands. Notice any tension as the light comes to our throat and scans up through our mouth, nose, eyes, and reaches the crown of our head. Notice any sensations that may be coming up from you. Anything that you want to address being here. And we're going to visualize this light quickly going through our body all the way back down and washing away any worry, any concern, any distractions that are keeping us from being here, and flooding those out through the bottom of your feet. Notice how your body feels in this moment. Notice if it's asking for you, your body is asking of anything of you for today. Keep that in mind as you look down. Slowly joining us back by moving our feet, our hands, and slowly opening our eyes. So the first things we see as we open our eyes, and taking a deep breath in and releasing. Wonderful. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Sonya, for joining me, and thank you everyone else who joined us in that very quick and gentle body scan. This is a really great practice as we are trying to get us back in connection with our body after what we're going to talk about today is very common when we're in spaces of burnout or stress. This is a scan that you can do in the mornings to help you really reconnect to what your body needs. If that's water, exercise, movement, rest, and give that to yourself for that day. It's a technique I love using with my clients, so I'm excited to share it here, and I will share a longer body scan available to you in the resource library after. All right, wonderful. Well, let's get started. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. So today's conversation is all about embodied leadership. I've been very excited to talk with someone and share this idea and these thoughts with all of you in our communities, because as we really think about what it means to bring wellness and wholeness and these self-care practices that we've been talking about and been hearing for a while now into our cultures, when I experience the burnout I experience and then talk to many people across the sector around managing their own burnout, the connection and disconnection to our body was such a main part of that. And so I'm really excited to bring Sonya Perez here today to talk about her experience and to share with us a bit of her wisdom on this topic. So Sonya, please come off mute and introduce yourself. We would love to welcome you to the space.
Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be here and look forward to just being in conversation about embodied leadership. Let me first introduce myself for visibility and accessibility. I use pronouns she, her. And as you said, my name is Sonya Perez. I'm a Chicana woman, Latina from Denver. I have dark brown hair, dark brown eyes, wearing some pink lipstick, some long earrings, and a black shirt with bright fuchsia flowers on it today. And I have a same background with a cream background, the Con Fuerza logo, and just honored to be here and share this space with you and to share my story.
Thank you so much, Sonia. I'm so excited. So let's get started. I mean, I love to give space for all of the guests to introduce themselves. You shared a bit about you're from Denver, but we would love to learn more about your background, your journey of really what brought you here and what called you in to want to have this conversation with us around well-being.
Yeah. So starting back, I have always been an idealist. I say a lifelong idealist. As a little girl, exposed to just the global world and some of the injustices. Like I always was curious, why is it that some kids, had to go to work in factories and I didn't have to, right? And so that was like a question as like a 7-year-old. I remember being like, that's not fair, not right. And so my journey and my path took me to international travel. And I didn't know it then, but I'd say I'm a systems thinker. I'm just always questioning like why is the world the way it is? And so being exposed to global poverty actually led me into business. I wanted to help people have jobs and the dignity of jobs. And so studied business to look at how we can create livelihoods. And that led me to microfinance, which is giving women small loans in the developing world, a way to create businesses. And that led me to working within the nonprofit sector. I had volunteered at other places, at other nonprofits, worked with refugees. And so, it was just really adjacent to be in nonprofit. And being in the nonprofit world, trying to create global solutions, realizing that we're not there for the money. And yet there was a lot of consistent drama or struggle, burnout. I say nonprofit pour out. You're there because you care so deeply about creating change, whether that's, feeding your neighbors or caring for the environment. There's passion, there's connected to your identity, and you're pouring out through your career. And yet I found that working hard, struggling through a lot of different things. It was during the recession in the early 2000s. And I heard about a program around change management, learning in change management, a master's program. And I was like, there's a better way to do this. There's a better way of working together as teams, of supporting your leadership development. And so, really went to find out how to do that better. And in that journey, learning about executive coaching and the power of having someone ask really thoughtful questions so that you could reframe, see things from different perspectives, change the way that you're feeling about a situation. I was like, this is what nonprofits need. Like we are going through, we're like juggling so many different things, the mission, the fundraising, the lack of resources, all of these things that we're trying to juggle. We needed the power of coaching. And so that's where I started my journey as a coach, a leadership coach, through that master's program at Northwestern, and have since integrated even more of the somatics. It's like one thing to know what to do. And I say, it's like, we think there's that beautiful quote of like, when you know better, do better. And yet there's this gap between knowing what we should be doing and actually doing it. It's like, yeah, I know I should take care of my body. I know I should drink more water, but how do I get there? And so that's what I really help my clients do, is like bridge that gap of actually creating practices and even ways of thinking and embodying what it is that they're wanting to do so that they can feel better and lead better from this place of wholeness. So my whole approach is holistic leadership coaching, because you can't just wish that we're a better leader. It is making sure that we feel better and including the whole body in that pursuit of leadership and changing the world.
Wow, what a journey. Thank you so much for sharing that, and so many connections that I'm sure so many of us that have been on this journey towards, I always say the dreamers that have always wanted to change the world and make it a little bit better since we were little. There's so many of us that, have that and had that passion and went out into the world and unfortunately were hurt by the realities of the systems that we live in. But I think you and I share that passion that wasn't enough for us, and we still have belief and value and know that things can be different, and we're here to think differently about how we can do that so we can make this world a little bit better. So thank you so much for sharing that. It makes me really excited, and again, that you're here with us and bringing in that perspective and that lived experience. So let's get into the conversation. You mentioned a little bit about it, but I like us grounding in what we're meaning, what we're talking about here, right? What does well-being mean to you, and how does that go into how you define embodied leadership?
Yeah, I really love that question of saying, like, let's zoom back. And it was interesting, even just seeing the world well-being. So often in our society and our career, we're focused on well-doing. And just even taking that moment of being like, oh, am I focused more on my well-doing or my well-being? Because when we take care of our being, then the doing can flow out of that versus I got to do. And that's where I think sometimes that burnout, that rub happens rather than zooming back and saying, oh, how do I invest in my well-being, in my wholeness? And so for me, well-being, and this is what I have created within the Leadership Atlas coaching approach that I teach, is that it's mental, emotional, and embodied. So yes, it is the thoughts that we're thinking. Are we finding ourselves like in a negative spiral? Are we just absorbing what stories society wants to give us about who we are, about what we should be doing? So being really fit in our mental ability, right? Thinking, like making sure that we're aware of the thoughts that we're thinking. So that's a mental fitness. And then on the emotional level, I like to frame emotions as an energy in motion on our body. And so rather than saying, oh, I'm just like so emotional, like I'm just swept away with my emotions, or I am not emotional, like I'm going to be a professional person and not be emotional, like, and try to shut that away. The truth is that emotion is a powerful piece of being human. But being able to work with it, just like you work with like your hunger and your other physical sensations, they impact both our thoughts and our body, and learning how to expand our emotional capacity and our emotional awareness so that we can work with those rather than be, run over by our emotions. So that's the second level of well-being. And then the third of embodied is that as humans, we have this physical body that holds all of our thoughts and our emotions and our creativities and intentions, and learning to, like you beautifully led us through, to just be aware, to reconnect with what's happening, both on an emotional level, like our emotions make us have different sensations in our body. And also our body needs things like movement, hydration, nourishment. And how often are we in our work doing something that we care about when we don't take lunch? We don't get up and move, right? And then we start pushing harder and harder to try to get to the result, to finish the things that we're doing, and not actually taking care of our physical needs. So it is integrating more of that awareness and even nourishment of this beautiful bodies that we all live in and care for, so that we can be well.
Wow, thank you so much. And I think that I just want to highlight that what you said is our body so much stores so much of what our experiences that I've had. And so that's why when we start talking about burnout, when we start talking about these symptoms, a lot of people recognize and notice it. They don't notice it in their emotions, they don't notice it in their mind, that it's not until our body really starts showing us that this is really at the point of, unfortunately for a lot of us, that breaking point of when it reaches our body. And so I love the work that you do, because what I hear you say is that when we're able to create that connection between our emotions, our mental health, and our body, that then we can have full awareness of everything. And that, I think, in a lot of the conversations with people or spaces that we've talked around self-care and wellness, has always just been around take care of your mental health or take care of your emotions. But I think this embodiment work, which is why I love that you incorporate this too, is that missing link that personally myself, I didn't even know about. And that is really what has been the transformation. And there's so much research out there for folks listening that really want to understand what it does to us. There's so much research out there that really talks about how the trauma, especially when we're talking about communities, marginalized communities, BIPOC communities, people of color that have experienced deep trauma, not only personally, but also in these work environments, how that gets really deep into our body. So thank you so much for grounding us in that definition. And I know you were talking a bit about that, but I want to invite, if you want to talk a little bit about more of how we can see these symptoms, how we can notice how it does affect our body, since I know you have so much experience with that.
Yeah. So when it comes to embodied leadership, and you mentioned how our body stores our experiences. This is so true. And I know you mentioned like stored trauma. When we are in a stressful experience, our body responds with chemicals. And so I love the science behind it as well. I incorporate a lot of neuroscience in the work that I do. And so just knowing how the brain works and how stress is actually a good thing, the way it saves us in moments of need of that adrenaline. So if you're driving a car and someone cuts you off, your body is going to spike adrenaline, step on the brake, be aware, your peripheral vision focuses. So there's some good things around stress that we get out of utilizing that. It's when it becomes chronic stress. It's when every email, every to-do is, life or death. And cognitively, you might say like, well, I know it's not that big of a deal, but if your body is still reacting based on kind of your nervous system wiring that everything was stressful, then it still impacts your body. So you might say, I know this email doesn't matter or isn't life and death, but if your wiring is that I will lose my job, or like you have these other deeper thoughts of like, I'm not good enough if I don't do everything right away, then that ends up affecting our physical being, because we're shooting cortisol and all of these stress hormones into our body all the time. And we need to have both stress and rest and digest. The parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system going on, working back and forth within our body to have that wholeness and that wellness that you're talking about. So that's a little bit about like the science of it, but just understanding, oh, my body is responding to this. I feel this in my body, and learning to work with that chemical reaction based on some of our beliefs about what we're facing in that day. It's like, our ancestors faced, lions and tigers and those things. It was important for them to use that stress, but then also to come back in community and realize, okay, I'm safe now. But if we are doing our job and we never have that, okay, I'm safe now, we never completing that stress cycle that is important for kind of that equilibrium inside of our body.
Exactly. I love, see, This is what I think is really important that we understand, because I think we've been sold this idea that stress is bad. And yes, stress, chronic stress, I love that you named it. Chronic stress is bad, but stress is normal. It's okay for us to feel a little bit nervous going into a meeting or stepping into the unknown. Stress inherently isn't bad. It's just when we don't know how to manage it. Similar to the emotions, I've always told, being a sensitive being myself, but also being around other really sensitive, beautiful humans my whole life. Like, it's not, emotions aren't bad, but it's when we can learn how to manage it and live in harmony with these really beautiful parts of ourselves, that then that's when it's okay. And that's when we can use it to support us, and not it feeling like it's making it harder to function. So thank you for naming that. It's not just about completely taking away stress or taking around worry, because I think that's a misconception when we talk around wellness work, well-being work. It's, we're just going to take away all the worries from everyone. Come on, y'all. We got to be realistic. Like, that's not going to happen, right? We live in the world we live in, and so we're going to experience these things, but it's how do we, and I love working in the cyclical perspective. It's the next time that it comes up, how, and next time we experience a stressful moment in that cycle, what can we do that next time to maybe bring it and make it a little less stressful, a little more manageable. And I'm curious, that's when you're working with clients, like, and for folks that maybe are just starting to notice these symptoms, notice these experiences happening, how do you encourage them to start creating more awareness of what is happening in their body, what is happening, so they can maybe take some steps towards addressing this?
Yeah. So people are at all different stages. And this is part of the reason why I call my program Leadership Atlas, that we all have our own journey. And so I don't have a specific, like, 1, 2, 3, here's how it is. I say we're gonna map it out together. So I have some clients who are like, I have worked so hard, I don't even know what sensations in my body are, like what that feels like. I have pushed so hard, and that has gotten them to a certain place in life, success, career. And so wherever my clients are, it's about entering with compassion. And so not feeling like you should be. There's so much of our lives is like, oh, I should be farther along, especially with social media. You're getting all these ideas and such. So it's like saying, let's take off the should. Let's look at what is, and then where do you want to go? How can we begin to become aware of what your body might be telling you? And so it's not like you have to jump in and start doing cold plunges and do all these things. It's like wherever the individual is at. Now, there's some people that are like, I'm really tuned into my body. I'm ready to utilize it. And, we start there, and we go from wherever it is that they're wanting to go. Maybe it's different thought work, or so everybody has their own path. I don't have a specific clear, 1, 2, 3. But when I say, let's take control of your leadership journey, and for some people, they're not quite sure what that leadership is. And I say a leader is anyone who sees something in the world that could be different, and they take action to make that change. And so, and you mentioned it yourself, like, hey, we live in this real world with real challenges and real stressors. Like, let's be honest, there is real trauma happening and continuing to happen in our society, where people are disconnected and not their basic needs are not being met. And so, like, not saying, okay, we're gonna like just be zen and tune into our own bodies. Like, there is real trauma and real challenges that we're facing. And so if you're taking action towards that, that makes you a leader. If you're taking action to create change in the world, and these are the people that I coach, I say they're the change agents. They're the ones that are wanting to make things right and more beautiful and more just, and they have creativity and ideas for how to go about that. And what's really important is that there's a lot of these beautiful change agents taking that action, but not bringing their body along. And so for embodiment, it's like, how do I, yes, take that action? Yes, go create change, be the activist, run for office, do these really challenging things, but also care for my body, care for the energy that is needed for the long run. I love how you mentioned that. It's like, how do we create sustainable energy so that we can continue to do these things that we feel called to with energy? And I think bringing our body along for that ride, utilizing the wisdom of our body to say, oh, okay, let me fuel up. What do I need to energize myself, to care for myself so that I can continue to pour out for the things that I feel are important to me?
Absolutely. No, and thank you for see, that is my Benny. He is also excited about our conversation. But that is real, and I love that you name that. There isn't a one size fits all. Like, we do need to acknowledge where you are in your journey and where we are with our own traumas and our own cultures within our organization. And I think that brings us nicely into what we wanted to talk about how important this is to our executive presence as leaders that are excited to lead these organizations that, maybe don't want to leave and start their own practices, but really believe in the organization structures that we have. What is it that we can do to increase? So how do you think that executive presence has to do with this embodiment of leadership?
Yeah, this idea of executive presence, I felt like it was maybe used against me, or felt like this big enigma of like, how do you get executive presence when you're trying to climb the corporate ladder or step into leadership with a certain title? And what I have found is that it really comes through the presence piece. Like, where are you? If your mind is on the past, you're thinking about the future, it's hard to be fully present. And so being that mental fitness of thinking like, where am I? And it is a practice. It's like, there are days where you are dreaming about the future, or, thinking about what could happen. And that's planning. That's a good thing that our brain does. Sometimes it's in the past of thinking like, what happened, and maybe you're evaluating. That can be a good thing. But when it comes to that executive presence of leading people, of saying, verbalizing a vision and bringing people along, it's that mental fitness. Say, okay, I'm here now, and I can trust myself to be fully here. And so often, I would say, like, earlier in my career, there was a lot of proving myself. I mean, it's natural being younger in your career, working really hard. And if you are in a culture that is not your own, if you're a person of color in a white dominant community, then there's all the buzz around imposter syndrome. If your mind is thinking about all of these things, like, I don't know the norms here and all of those things, then it's hard to be present. And so as leaders, when we can trust ourselves to be fully there, we don't have to have all the answers. If you think in order to be a leader, you have to have all the answers, you're going to feel that anxiety come up. Rather than, I trust myself to get the answers. I trust myself to ask good questions. And that's what can build that confidence. I think, I said, I don't really love the term fake it till you make it, because it's like projecting like that something, versus saying, I trust myself to learn. I trust myself to be comfortable, to learn how to be comfortable in these spaces, rather than just this like, white knuckling efforting to get there. So I don't know if that makes sense around how to root yourself in that self-knowledge of trusting yourself to show up and to be what this community needs as far as a leader.
Yes, and we've talked about this even in our prep or past conversations. We've had these conversations around these concepts, as much as we respect and honor all those who may feel again nervous and worried going into spaces. There's that beautiful graduation speech that talked around imposter syndrome and comparing it to bike phase, right? And we'll add that video to the note. Highly recommend it. But we do have to be conscious of there are certain terms that have also been used and created in our society to make us feel less than, and we can step into that feeling of feeling less than and let it take over us and allow it to bring us down and not move forward. Or we can acknowledge it that these are feelings that are normal. Stepping into environments that are scary, that are new, it is normal for us to feel that nervousness, and that does not make us that we are unworthy of being there. It does not make us that we are unable to be there. We are absolutely worthy and able to step into these roles. We have to think of the CEOs that we see now. They weren't always CEOs. At some point, they were managers, and the people don't just step into these roles and know. If I worked with executives and CEOs for 5-6 years, and I talked to so many of them. Half of them didn't even know what they were doing stepping into the first few months of their role. They're also just trying to do the best they can. And so when we create that reality of a lot of us are really going in and trying the best that we can, and that is the truth. And not everyone goes into a role knowing exactly how to do it or what to do, but you feel as though you can do enough of it, and then you will learn on the way. And so that shift, I would welcome and encourage us to think differently about the expectation we put on ourselves to have it all figured out. And so we don't step, thank you, Sonya, for calling us into that of, we don't go into it just saying we're going to fake until we make it. No, we have enough to be able to move forward. We have it. That's why we were selected across other applicants. That's why we're here. Everything you work for is to get to that place. But so much of our time, our mind wants to take us to it. And I also want to acknowledge that all of that being said, I also very much acknowledge when there are environments and situations, especially for women of color, that very much don't allow for that. And that is the reality. And there are people actively working towards bringing you down. So there is many different realities, and this is not to just say that there is one. And also, where can we reclaim our power and our situation in those environments so we can choose to move forward in a way that does feel aligned to us.
Absolutely. And a few things that I want to touch on. You just said like reclaiming your power. I think that's so important in all situations. When your mind feels like you're stuck and you don't have any options, that's going to result in burnout when you don't have any options. And so, and understanding that you can even change how you're thinking about an environment and allow yourself to say like, well, what if I found another place? I've done some coaching around transitioning jobs, and there's this fear of like, well, this is a bad situation. It's just going to get worse. Or like, will I find an organization that's not this toxic, right? Like when you're thinking that's not going to lead to you finding the best job. And so part of it is like first starting with like, I believe that there are people that value wellness and healthy organizations, that there are people that are invested in emotional wellness that want to do this work. And sometimes it's like, it is our capacity to imagine and dream that helps move us out of those spaces, that helps move us into something new. So like upping the autonomy for yourself, like what do you have power over? And being journaling and writing and like becoming aware. And this is also talking with a coach of like, where do I have my power? Where am I giving up my power without even knowing it? And like reconnecting with the body conversation, I talk about how when I was at an office job, I used to be like, oh, I wish I smoked because I kind of want to go out and just take a break. No one was telling me that I couldn't take a break and go for a walk. Like I wasn't an hourly employee. Like I could have done that. And so it's just funny, these stories that we tell ourselves, that we limit ourselves without even realizing. I actually had the power to go run stairs or to get outside and to move my body in that office job. But it wasn't written anywhere. And I'm used to following, like I'm conditioned to follow the rules. And there wasn't a rule against it, but I just didn't realize that I had that autonomy. So like looking for areas in your life where you can create, like use some autonomy, some agency in creating the life and the work that you want, even within an organization.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So it reminds me of this quote. I've used it in the past to ground ourselves with these conversations, but it just feels really relevant, especially for folks who haven't joined us before. But Brianna West, she writes this, she talks about experiences, and she says something that's so beautiful. She says, a belief is what you know to be true because experiences has made it evident to you. If you want to change your life, change your beliefs. If you want to change your beliefs, go out and have experiences that make them real to you. So I love that. And it feels so connected to what you're saying of sometimes we don't know what we don't know. We don't believe in something because we haven't seen it. So what is the conscious things that we need to do? Who are the people we need to start surrounding ourselves with? What are the habits that we need to pick up? What are the cultures, even if you feel as though you can't step away from the culture that you're in for various reasons, then how can you shape or resituate yourself within that culture so you're creating an experiences that is supporting a new belief system? What could that belief system be around? I am worthy of being here. I can do this job and also preserve my well-being. I do have the boundaries and I have the capability to set boundaries. And so what are all of these? What is that new belief system that you want to establish? First, knowing that, understanding yourself and what you're looking for. What is that North Star? What is that sun that you're guiding, that's guiding you? And then how do we shape ourselves to align to that? That's why I'm an alignment coach, because I believe we need to have something to ground us with, and that being our values, that being our mission, that being our belief system. And then we can align our practices towards that. We need that clarity and awareness as well. And so there's something, I appreciate you saying that, because I think it is important to acknowledge that sometimes we don't have around us what we're looking, especially if we're coming from trauma environments or intergenerational trauma. Sometimes what we've always wanted, that be a relationship or that be an organization, a work environment, we haven't seen. So how do we create that now moving forward?
Yeah. Well, and I'll go back to like each individual has their own journey and their own path. And you had mentioned, like, how do I create something new? And talking about this new belief, sometimes our body, what it knows is the chaos. And so like sometimes chaos, or what we technically don't want, like always working so hard, like that feels familiar. And so our brain is actually goes to work keeping us safe and conserving energy. And so when we're looking to create life transformation or work transformation, just being aware that our brain wants to keep us safe and it wants to conserve energy. And so creating new ways of thinking, new neural pathways, these bigger dreams, these ways of maybe a workplace that is calm or that prioritizes your well-being, saying like, this is new. And brain, this is what I want right now. Saying it's safe to want well-being. And sometimes we're like, oh, but like I'm used to just working really hard. And as Latinos and Latinas, like our work ethic is so a part of our value and a part of who we are. And it has always been for me, like just work really hard. And so that belief of I work really hard, I don't want that to go away. I'm not trying to move away from that. And it's like a reframe of that identity. I think of identity as kind of clay and molding, that I get to choose how I want to mold it and maintain values in a way that supports me becoming more of who I want to be. I want to be a leader that is joyful and works with my brain and with my body in ease, not someone who is chronically stressed, burning out. So knowing that, I can say, oh, I know how to work really hard. When there are things that I need to get done, I know how to do this. And I'm going to be kind to my nervous system when it feels like uncomfortable to sit down with a book, uncomfortable to take a moment of rest. Like that, my body is used to the stress of working really hard, and just being compassionate with this is old wiring. And yet, I believe that there's a way of being that I can get a lot done, work really hard, and still preserve my well-being. I can still rest. I can still take time to eat good food and have community and these other things that maybe my value of working hard has diminished those other things. So just being aware, I love playing with that idea of like understanding our identity, the old wiring, new things that we're trying to create in our life, and compassionately integrating new things, rather than saying, oh, I shouldn't work so hard, and like beating yourself up for not working for working so hard. It's like, don't take the old tools and use it in the new way. Like, let's integrate some compassion into this transformation that we're going after.
Yes, don't take the old tools and try to use it in a new way. Woo, there it is. We need to find new ways to be, and how that can support us, and being in these conversations, going out and building that new reality. Like it is possible. I'm not going to say it's not easy. It definitely it can be a challenge to step to. Thank you for acknowledging our body always wants to go to that comfortable place, and if it's all we've known, then it's going to retreat back to that. And also, there is a way to enter these new eras of what we're looking for in a place rooted in compassion. Absolutely. Oh, so special. Well, I am so sad that we are getting to our time, and I want to be respectful of your time and others. And so I want to move us into our last question that I ask all of our guests here. And that is really grounded in our philosophy here at Con Fuerza, which is living a life with Con Fuerza is about reclaiming our inner power to live in alignment with our values. How are you choosing to live a life Con Fuerza, Sonya? And what does living a life Con Fuerza with strength mean to you?
Yeah, I love this question. I think for myself, it is taking the courage to look at those limiting beliefs rather than just integrating them into, oh, this is just who I am. That is an easy way of moving forward. And so taking the courage and questioning old stories. Is this serving me? Is this serving the impact that I want to have in my community? And I think when those two things don't have to be, they aren't in conflict. They can really be harmonized, and having that creativity to harmonize both taking care of myself and taking care of the community, and being willing to reframe some of these old things, these old limiting beliefs around whatever it is, those roadblocks to success, roadblocks to visibility. I mean, I've had a lot of these ideas for a long time, different thoughts. In my shower, journaling, I have so many journals. But for a long time, I wasn't showing up here. I wasn't on LinkedIn Lives. I wasn't posting. I wasn't building my business because of limiting beliefs. And so having the courage to say these things, these ideas that I've been given are of value, that takes courage, and that feels strong to me, of stepping into that and knowing when I step into my power, it creates more space for all of us to step into our power to create the world that we want together, with sustainable energy, with joy, not normalizing burnout, that we can support each other to create a different way of leading, as humans, full humans with our full emotions, with our full body needs, with the complexity that we live in today. So that's my mission. I hope I continue to do that. And I love being a part of people's journeys as they take control of their leadership journey and becoming more embodied and more powerful.
Well, thank you so much. I am so happy that you took the courageous step to believe in yourself and see this value in yourself, because we are so lucky to have someone like you out in the world wanting to show this, wanting to normalize that this is a way that we can lead. So thank you so much for being here. I am just so grateful and honored. Any final remarks that you want to share with our community here, Sonya?
No, I just want to thank you for creating this space, for continuing to elevate this conversation with the people that you bring on here. And if anyone's listening and they feel something in their heart that they want to put out into the world, be encouraged, because we are just humans like you with limited beliefs and working to transform that so that we can support each other and feel healthy and well in our beings together. So definitely, for anyone listening, reach out to us. We are not alone in this journey. There are so many people that are integrating more of their body into their work, into their leadership, and elevating these conversations. So don't be alone.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Absolutely. It is possible. And I'm excited. In 2 weeks, we will be continuing this conversation, actually going deeper into these conversation about restorative justice. And that really is this philosophy grounded in healing justice that grounds what we're talking about here. Sonya, you said it earlier, how we bring compassion into the work that we're doing and how we acknowledge our traumas and our lived experiences on this mission to create more holistic and full lived experiences. So highly encourage you, if you want to learn more about justice and grounding ourselves in restorative justice and what this means, highly encourage you to join us next week. And before we do log off, I do want to just share, for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to see, we have this incredible resource library where you can continue these conversations, hear the conversations that have happened already in the past. And there's an episode guide for each one. And so if you'll see this link available to you in the LinkedIn comments, and once you're in this resource library, you can go straight to Sonya and all the other speakers, and you can see the wonderful links that Sonya has provided to us and some other reading documents on how to continue to do this work, what this means, and how to get more support, and a wonderful body scan podcast episode if you want to do this practice that we did earlier on your own. So thank you once again for those of you that joined us live, for those of you that are watching us later. Thank you for taking time to see us and to be with us. We're so excited to continue to have these conversations. And yes, thank you once again, Sonya. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Look forward to connecting.
Oh, thank you.